was going to do a video on leveling ground. Start off by repairing all my stuff. And, ooh, it's nice and foggy. Alright. This is where we're going to do it. Let me clear a space here. We'll let the fog should subside here in a second. So I've already got a pretty level area here. But I want to show you how we can modify terrain using the hoe and the hammer. Mostly the hoe. There's another tool that we can use for leveling, the pickaxe, which you don't have yet. But really most of about, I would say probably 75% of leveling is done, even 80% is done with just the hoe and the hammer. So the main principle for leveling ground is that use the hoe. Let's select the hoe with our D-pad. And let's ignore these two things for right now. The raise ground and the pathing tool. The pathing tool is just basically lets you get rid of grass. It exposes the dirt below. It doesn't change elevation. The raise ground feature, this is all part of your hoe, lets you raise the elevation really sharply, like in huge chunks. And we don't want that. It requires, you have to have stone in your inventory and a workbench, but that's not what we're doing here. We're just basically clearing a foundation. And for that, we want the level ground tool. It's the level ground option. It's under hoe. This is all the hoe. So we're going to select that. So the principle here is that if you want to raise the ground, then you need to be standing higher than the ground you want to raise. So right now I am standing up here, which is pretty high, and I want to raise the ground below me. So I'm going to click on my right bumper and look at that. Do you see how significantly that raises the ground? Now this is, again, this is different from the raise the raise ground tool, which is a whole different thing. Trust me. Now the amount that you're able to raise the elevation depends entirely on how high you're standing at the time. In other words, if I'm standing here and I try to raise the elevation, it raises it a little bit, but it's not nearly as extreme as this was. I mean, I was already starting kind of high. So if we want to raise the elevation, we have to be standing at an elevation higher than the ground at which we want to raise, the ground that we want to raise. The inverse of that is true when you want to remove dirt using the leveling tool. So you want to stand at a lower elevation than the ground you want to level off, and it just gets rid of it. Just flattens it out. Now, if you notice here, it doesn't flatten this part any more than that. This is because we have to pick at this with a pickaxe. This is a chunk of rock underneath that dirt that you have to hit with the pickaxe to finish leveling it. I'm not going to worry about that right now. Again, I just want to focus on the hoe. So let's practice this. I'm going to go back. I'm going to raise the elevation. Excuse me. I'm going to stand over here and see if I can change the elevation. Again, you see it raises the elevation. It doesn't raise it as much as when I stand up here, though. When I stand up here, it really builds it up, or at least right there it did. See how it raised all that? Okay. So, down here, flattens. That's really all there is to it. Now what I do when I'm building out a foundation, what I'll do is I'll get my hammer and I'll choose the floor piece. I'll lay out a few of these. Snap into place. And then if this were not level already, it is, so this is going to be a can't really illustrate what I'm talking about, but what I would do is I would put, well here, let me do this. Let me see if I can stand up here and make it work. Go to my hoe, and let's see if we can, nah, it doesn't really work. Gotta be standing. Let's see what we can do over there. There we go. That worked a little bit. See how I raise the elevation here? Look at that. Yeah, that raised it a good bit. So let's stand up here. Just kind of raise it across the board. All right, so there we go. So let's pretend that I've just laid these down, and I want to level the rest of this. Laying boards down is like a cheat, because right now this is as level as you can get. Where I'm standing at ground level on, I'm looking at these pieces. These pieces are all blue, which means that they're stable. And this is, from this point, I can just stand on the wood tiles and level the ground in front of me, and it's going to level the ground in front of me to the level at which I'm standing. In other words, it's making all this dirt right here in front of me the same level as the one that I'm standing on. So I can do this. Now, if I want to make sure that this is continuously level, what I'll do is I'll stop here. I'll get my hammer. I'll lay down another row of floor pieces. Let's see. Go back to my hoe here. Finish leveling this off here. There we go. One little puff did it. And these are all stable. These are all blue. Now I'm going to pull up the ones behind me. And you know, if I was laying a floor here, I wouldn't bother, because I'm laying floor pieces for the whole area. But sometimes you want to level an area and you don't want the floor here. If I was planting a garden and I just wanted it level for the garden, for example. So now I'm going to go back to my hoe, and I'm going to level in front of me. Again, I have my cursor. If you put your cursor on a wooden piece and try to hoe, it's going to say invalid placement. So if you see invalid placement, you just have to push your cursor out into the dirt. There we go. There we go. All right, that should be level. Let's go back to the hammer and lay some more floor pieces. Look at that, nice and level. Nice and level. I can even probably, oops. Well, let's go ahead and let's just go ahead and level it just to make sure, because sometimes there'll be a little gap here that we can level out. So I'll go back to my hoe again. You're just kind of switching back and forth between your hoe and your hammer. I just do it, 3 or 4 times, and then I'll go back to my hammer and lay it out. Oops. There we go. That's it. That's all there is to it. And you would just do this for as large an area as you needed. If there's any areas that you can't level off, like in other words, there's just a chunk that will not level down any further. Here's an example of one right here. This is what you need a pickaxe for. And you don't have the pickaxe yet, but we're going to get it. You have to kill the boss to get this thing. What I'll probably do is I'll probably spawn one for you just so you can have one to use, and then we'll kill the boss later. But the way this works is you just smack it once, right there, and you see it added some stone to my inventory. And here, if I want to level this further, I go to my hoe from here, and now you see it changes the elevation. It actually does away with that dirt. Now I still have to go back because there's some chunks that still want to be axed. So we'll get those 2 right there. Now let's go back to the hoe. Yeah, that's looking flatter. See, that's looking flatter already. And let's what we can do here, if we want to make sure that it's perfectly flat, we can extend our floor out like this. And you can still snap a wood piece under the dirt, which is kind of cool. So let's stop here and go back to the hoe and try to level that out. Can't level it out, so we got to go to the pickaxe. Um, go to the pickaxe and just smack the ground right in front there. Now that might did it. That might have done it. Yeah, that's pretty good. I think we can still smack this one more time. You see how the dirt and that stone are kind of clipping through the piece here? What I'll do is I will destroy this piece real quick. I'll try to level it real quick. See if that fixed it. Just hit it with the leveler once. Almost. Still got that little pebble there. Now this doesn't really matter. If the pebble doesn't bother you, you don't have to do all this. I am kind of obsessive about this stuff, so I'm going to smack this with the pickaxe one more time. There we go. And now you can see it put a little dent there. I don't want the dent there, so I'm going to stand here, which is at roughly the elevation that I want to. Well, here, I'll just stand on this. At the elevation that I want to level it off at. Go back to my hoe and just level out in front of me. Let's see if that did it. Yeah. See how it perfectly flattened it right there? That little divot went away. Now let's try to lay down a wooden piece and see what happens. Beautiful. Well, it's still clipping a little bit, but I'm not too worried about it. That looks pretty good. And remember how high this was over here. So that's how you use the pickaxe and the hoe to level it off and make it flat. And that's really all there is to it. So let's recap real quick. To change elevation, if you want to raise elevation, you have to be standing at an elevation higher than the area you want to raise. And then from there, you can stand at a lower elevation to delete dirt. See, I'm kind of midway between the floor and where I was standing, and I'm flattening it here. Like, it doesn't flatten all the way down to floor level, but it's kind of flattening it sort of an in-between level. But if I step down here, down to my floor level, now I can level it at floor level. So if you want to flatten, you want to be standing at a lower elevation or at a specific elevation. And by that I mean I'm standing at floor level and I'm leveling to floor level. And that's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. Periodically you'll have to repair your hoe and your hammer. Don't forget that. But otherwise, that's all there is to it. Let's pick this dandelion. All right. If anything doesn't make sense, or if anything was confusing, or if I didn't explain something very well, just let me know, and we'll go back over it. Talk to you later.